Okay, go Kim.
So, 3 games this weekend. That's kind of a lot. How do you guys prepare for that?
Well, it's a lot, obviously, after Christmas break. So obvious focus right now on ASU. Don't want to look ahead. But as a coach, early in the week, which would be yesterday and the day before, just working on kind of the big picture. So what we'll kind of face defensively against Cal and Stanford, because in between the games it's too short to really work on it. So preparing that stuff now, but film and all that stuff is just ASU.
You playing at ASU last year. What does this game mean to her?
Just like any other game. I don't think probably a little bit more because she was there, but I think it's a little different because different coaching staff. I don't think Jade really thinks a lot about that stuff. She just plays, but obviously, their team probably will. But I think they have so many new players. I don't think it's a big thing.
What do you think is the scout for ASU? What do you have to do to sort of neutralize Skinner and Simmons?
Yeah, Skinner is really good. She's reminds me of like a younger version of Aerie. She can get hot, she talks. I love her energy and stuff. I love players like that. I hate to play against them, but I love when they get pumped and, start yelling threes and all that stuff. But she's fast, she defends, so definitely have to control her and, stop her in transition, not let her get hot, get those threes going. And, they have a good team. They have size inside. They bring some size off the bench, so just kind of have to play our game. I think we have an advantage, running the floor. With our post players, and I think just a little bit more depth from our guards. So I think it's going to be a good game, but rival games are always really tough.
Where do you think your team has grown the most over the last several games since Kansas? You question some things, and you guys show up against Baylor, and then you finish out. So where do you think they are right now?
I think we're a lot better than we were 2 weeks ago. I think defensively we're better. I think we're more on point. And I think when you have a team, we got punched in the face and we got killed. I think that was great because we needed that. It was going to be then or it was going to be this week. So I'm kind of glad it happened then. It wasn't the way I wanted it to happen. I just questioned a lot about our fight, and that was not going to be accepted. We addressed a lot of that stuff and fought, and I think that what the players saw was they saw the results. They saw me say, you are going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to work on it. We worked very hard on it for that week, very hard. And so came in, did it, followed what I said, and it worked. And so I think that then as a player, mentally, you trust that. And so you see if we do X, Y, and Z, we can win. And there's a good formula to win, and trust your staff and do that. And you can't just do what you want because it doesn't work like that. And you're not going to play here if that's the case. So I think trusting in that and knowing we're better. And now I think turning the page, we're able to do a lot different things that we couldn't do a month ago. A month ago, if we were in practice changing defenses, it was a disaster. It was like romper room. And now it's like I changed something. We're on point a little bit more. Yes, with all freshmen, maybe not, but we're able to transition faster and move along faster. And we could not do that before. We're a little bit better defensively. We're better rotation-wise. We still have some weaknesses for sure that we're working on, but we are much better than we were 3 weeks ago. Much better than Kansas, obviously.
Defensively, is a lot of that communication, because you mentioned, without Lauren being on the floor, you lose that communication.
Yeah, we do.
And who's kind of stepped up into that role?
I think they all have. So Jade has, Lauren Fields has, Kate has, Maddie has. I think I have assigned people to different areas. So one person's in charge of communication. I've made little committees, so people have ownership in those things, which I think has worked. I've gave people specific things to do in the game, and if you don't do it, that's on you. So if you're in charge of the bench, that's on you if we don't. If you're in charge of communication on the floor, if you're in charge of transition defense and you're the point person, you're back every single time. Even if you die and you fall on the baseline, you are trying to get back. Someone may cover you, but it's your responsibility. So I think just more accountability. And I think this team has demanded me to coach a little bit different than I do. But I guess that's growing as a coach. I think if I would have coached 30 years, I would have already gone through all this. I haven't, so it's my 7th year, so I've gone through a lot as far as transitioning as a coach. So I came in one way, got better, obviously, had a good team that everyone doubted, then trying to figure out with better players how to sustain that and dealt with different things. I've had to coach different ways, so I've definitely grown. And I've grown a lot this year, more than I have in any other year up to this point. So I'm saying in the few months since we started the season, it's been a lot. And so I'm having to coach a different way than I normally coach. And that's okay, because if it's what the team needs, but I've had to do a lot of adjustments the last couple of years.
Is that because this team is more offensive than in pass, or what's the biggest difference?
I think just have handled a lot of adversity initially that I have never handled. I think just different personalities, different expectations, you know, a better class coming in with higher expectations. And I think also the generation of kids, and I think just how the mentalities of the players nowadays. And I think after COVID, I think a lot of things have changed with players. I really do, which is sad. I think it's affected so many people, and the work ethic and the mentality and all that stuff is just different. And so I think that as a coach, part of being a good coach is you have to adjust every year. Well, that means you change your offense or change your style. I think you have to adjust the team you have. And so I think that's what I've been having to do.
With the committee that you put together, you know, controlling the bench, controlling that, what came, like, how did you come to that idea, and, like, how do you implement
Well, I mean, figuring out ways to, like, thinking of creative ways to get your team to go in certain areas, right? Like, I think before Kansas, I never had to question those things. Like, we never not fought, or we never, like, didn't do something. So I think figuring out how to hold people accountable for different things. I think I feel like with this generation, there's no accountability. And as a coach, there's also a challenge. Like, when I was in college, I didn't do the right thing, I ran. Like, I missed class, I got the crap ran out of me. And I was so scared, ran so hard that I was terrified to miss class because I was going to get the crap ran out of you. Like, I think at one point, I think I overslept when I was a freshman. I set my alarm for PM. I was one of the few freshmen that didn't have a roommate. My roommate played volleyball and basketball, so she wasn't there half the year. I was like 17, super young. My mom used to help wake me up. And then in college, I overslept like an hour, like missed like the conditioning, came at the last second, like disarrayed, barely dressed, you know? And I ran hard. I think in that day, I think I had 111 sprints. It was like 2 for every minute or something like that. And I had the day to finish them. They were timed. I could do like 50 this time, like the whole day. And like, I did it. And it was like, I would have never again. And then one time, I got in trouble. I had to sit at half court, and I had to watch my team get the crap ran out of them, like throwing up and yelling at me, all this and stuff. I never made that mistake again. I think after that, so you can't do that nowadays. So you can have a conversation. You can like have an extra study hall. So like you can't hold players accountable. And so I think that's a problem. I'm not saying you go and you try to kill someone, but even a punishment like having a player walk on a treadmill for an hour is annoying. It is like not strenuous where it is going to hurt someone, but it's so annoying. You think any player wants to walk without their phone or their headphones for 1 hour, they would probably want to die. They would probably rather like run 5 suicides, right? It's just stuff like that. But it's really hard to hold players accountable nowadays. And so then it goes back to recruiting and stuff, but it's just a challenge. And I'm sure every single coach in America would tell you that, but different schools handle things differently. And I think at some schools there's still like punishment running and stuff.
What would a win for your team's first in conference matchup do for your confidence?
It would do a lot. I think we're pretty confident right now. I think that Baylor UT Arlington game gave us great momentum. So I feel like we're very confident going into a very tough week that I'm not happy with. I'm not happy with starting off the rival team on Thursday, playing Saturday, and the third game being Stanford at Stanford. I think that's just not the way I would have scheduled something, and disappointed that it was scheduled like that. And there's a lot of factors why it was. Like, Natasha and I had our schedules done. We had agreed to play the rival team before, but we couldn't find a date because our schedules are pretty much done. So, and then the bowl game's always on the Friday, so it always makes us go on the road, which I'm not happy with either. Those are just things that I want to open with the Pac12 one of these days at home. I never can. So that's just stuff to address later, but it's a big week. I mean, we're playing Stanford the third game, so 3 games in 5 days.
Couldn't you have protested?
I mean, I didn't agree with it and just stated like my disagreement, but it is what it is. I can't control that, but it's like not what I would have chose at all.
What's your impression of the Pac-12 so far?
I think that things are moving. I think, there's great leadership right now. The women's competition and stuff. I think it's good. I think we were down last year. I think, UCLA is really good, and I thought they were really underrated coming into season. I knew they were going to be good. they're healthy, and I think USC is a lot better. I think it's very good. I think it's one of the best in the country. I think it was just down last year because of the injuries that Oregon State had and the injuries that UCLA had. I think we'll get 7 teams into the tournament again. I do.
Utah coming?
When they were getting the transfers, I thought they were underrated also. I didn't think they would be putting up 130 points, but they always have a lot of firepower on offense. But Peely, I know she's good. I've seen her at her best. She wasn't at her best the last couple of years, and she was injured. So I knew adding her, they have some really good pieces. They have some stud underclassmen. So I'm not surprised. And Lynn's a really good coach. So I think that they're going to be another team that goes deep in the tournament. I don't think they're just going to make the first round. I think they're going to be a top team. I think a top 3 team in the Pac-12 this year.
How different is this ASU team compared to recent ASU teams with the new coaching staff, and just is there any style of play difference that you see?
No, I think similar, just style play as other Pac-12 teams. I think just different because so many new players and a different coaching staff that we're not familiar with. So I think different in that sense. I think throughout the league, everybody else has familiarity because Lindsay was in the Pac-12 before. And all of us know Beth Burns. She was a West Coast. She was at San Diego State for years as a head coach, so they're going to be really good. So I think nothing different. Run a lot of same stuff you see in basketball. No different, drastically different system. So I think nothing we haven't faced.
When you face Stanford, you'll have another team with a strong front court, which is, Kansas. You had some problems with that. So what do you guys have to do different?
Well, first thing is, I think Kansas was kind of like a isolated thing. We didn't guard at all. If you let someone drive the basket 37 times and they score 31, that's a problem. I think our rotation, confidence, and our help, all that stuff, we're way better than that now. So I don't think it'll be as much of an issue. As Mary and Kate definitely have to stay out of foul trouble. But I think as Mary's a really good defender inside and really strong. Now, she will have a height disadvantage, but she will have an advantage on the perimeter. So I think if things give us a problem, we have different things put in to where we can help support each other, but have to be creative. I think they're big, but we're also fast, and we're also, going to play pressure defense a lot of people haven't faced. So I think they'll struggle in some areas, and so will we, and that's a part of the game. So just have to be ready on the 3rd game in 5 days.
So I was looking back in the record books at some of the past Stanford, Arizona games, and there was one game right after you graduated that that Arizona won handily. It was sort of shocking. It's sort of shocking, because most of their games were close during that time period. And Joan, in the middle of the game, put in a completely new defense that they hadn't even practiced. Do you think someone could do that today, or was that sort of a product of she had players there who they stayed for the 4 years and all of that? Was that sort of, that happened more because of that? Because I can't imagine today you all of a sudden drawing up a new defense in the middle of a game.
That's not my philosophy as a coach. But let's say it was that Final Four year, that team that has great chemistry and that we are really solid defensively. I could have probably done something. I wouldn't do something totally different. That's not my philosophy. But tweaking it to where we play this type of defense, but we're going to extend a little bit on the top. Because I don't feel like as a coach, my philosophy, they need to always have confidence to be prepared. So there's never nothing that we've just never done that I'm just going to do in the game. Because I just don't think you have confidence, you're unsure. If you did that for one possession maybe, but not as a strategy. So what I would do is something we've done, or we hadn't done it in months, but there's some familiarity with it and put it in, and do it for a possession or two. But I think that's really hard. This year, 7 new players. I don't think that would help us be successful. I feel like that we have other things to go to, 3 or 4 other things that we've done consistently well, should be able to change the game. So I should never have to pull something else. Then I'm not doing a good job as a coach to me, because if I have to pull something totally different, then we're not prepared. Because as a coach, my preparation would be, there is a way to play it, then there's 3 counters to that. And then there's a way to play offense, but then there's a couple counters, if we're not making shots. So I should have all that stuff prepared. And I think it's different nowadays. But with a veteran team, I think you can trap out of a zone that maybe you haven't done in 4 months, but not just something different. I wouldn't do it, but that's just how I've always been coached and how I've been taught.
Although you're clearly not happy with how the schedule worked out this year, How does it prepare you for the Pac-12 tournament and the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, and everything's preparation. And honestly, as a player, I would love it. As a player, I'd be like, heck yeah, no practice. Like, so for me, it's like, as a coach, it's like, oh, that sucks. But it's like, it is what it is. It's like, it really doesn't matter, because if you lose it, it's like, oh, you had 3 games in 5 days. It's like on the road, a really good team. Like, it doesn't, I don't think there's pressure there. It's like, we want to do well. We want to win. You want to start off with momentum. But if I'm a player, I'm like, this is awesome. No practice, all games, like, you love it. Like, that's how I was. I don't know if the kids nowadays are like that. Like, but you should be like, yeah, that's fun. I'd rather play more games than practice. And, like, if you don't play well, I loved it as a player. If you have a game Thursday and you don't play well, at least you have Saturday. When you have to wait a week, like, that stinks, you know? So I think it's fun. I think it's exciting, and it's going to show me how mentally tough we are. It's going to show me where we're at. I'm going to learn a lot about this team this week. So I'm excited and like to see how prepared we are for everything.
Earlier, you talked about conditioning, and that's going to be really important this week. How has that progressed?
It's good now. Yeah, let me make sure it's good. So at the end of the last 2 weeks before Christmas, like, we were running. We went into some games tired, and I didn't care because they were non-conference, and I knew that we needed to be more fit, and now we're good. We need to be more fit going into this, and we had a very hard week after Kansas, like long, and it was like defensive clinic. So I think we got better. I think we got better mentally, just tougher. But it's like we needed that. We had to have that. So we're definitely not an issue now.
What have you seen out of Shayna over the last few games in her development? Because you had her come off the bench against Texas Southern, and then she started and had a great game against Baylor. Where do you think her progress has been?
I think her progress has been great. I think, Shayna, it's just getting consistency and being like ready and staying at the same level, whether you play good or bad. And I think, teaching the players not everything is conducive. Like, you don't have to only score to be a good player. Like, there's so many other facets. You can have 5 points, 8 assists, 3 steals. Like, there's so many things. And I think not letting players get too high or too low. And I think Shayna is learning that and has done a better job of that now and bouncing back and being strong. And I was proud of the way that she bounced back after Baylor, after having a really tough game against Kansas, and disappointed in herself. But I think that as players grow, like, there's sometimes you have to not look for excuses as players in general. You have to look in the mirror and see what you need to get better at. And I think that's a growing thing. That's hard for these 17 to 22-year-olds. Like, how can you get better? Yeah, we lost. I can point the finger at this person, but like, what do I need to do better? What do I have to improve on? And learning that. And I think that's what, as a coach, we're trying to teach the players. Like, we all can improve on things. And if you're not shooting well, get in the gym, shoot more. If you're not handling the ball well, then it's on you to work on it. I practice. I can't practice them 3 hours a day right now. So it's like you have to do some work outside. If you want to be great, you do work outside. You have to work better than 99% of the people if you want to go pro, because 1% is going to go pro. If you want to be like everybody else, do what everybody else does, you get the same results. So teaching them, you can't just talk about wanting to be good. You have to put the work in to be good. And most people don't have what that takes, so they're not good. You don't work at something, you're not going to get it. So I think you want players in a team that start to get that. And I bet you any team in America, no one has 12 players like that. Like, you don't. You maybe have, I don't know if I'll ever coach with Kelsey Plum. I don't know, because Kelsey Plum, and I'm not saying because of her talent, I'm saying because of her work ethic and mentality and attitude. Like, she was going to be the best, and she was going to work like no one else did. And I don't know, I think those players come along every 20 years, 15 years. So.
As far as Shayna, it looked like in these last few games she's maybe not forcing, she's finding teammates a little bit more. I mean, she was leading the team in assists, but it seems like she's taken a step further. Are you seeing that? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, we're demanding that stuff. So that's what you should be seeing with all the players. That's why I say it's like everything's not predicated on scoring. And I think players sometimes get caught up in just scoring, which is natural. I think every player does that. So learning that we need a team. The team has to be successful. If we're not successful, everybody loses. So I think you should see from our team, from everybody, a lot less forcing, a lot less selfishness. And it's not intentional selfishness. It's sometimes trying to do it yourself, but using each other. And I think that you'll see the growth in that from a few weeks ago too. And, you know, we're charting stuff, we're looking at stuff, and accountability, like you're doing X, and we don't want X. So that's what I'm saying, more of that stuff, which is hard as a coach, pointing out every single little thing, detailed on every single thing. But if your team needs that and that makes your team better, then that's what you have to do. So I think that what we're doing right now is working, and we just have to continue to get better because we have a lot of growth to do this week. We have to make this week. So, thanks, guys. Okay, thank you. I gotta get to practice.